Bob Swinson soaked in the final puff of his cigar as he basked in the sunshine while sitting outside in a deck chair on his porch overlooking his 500 acres ranch in Bexar County, San Antonio, Texas. The sun blazed through the canopy of Mount Smith, which stood as a beacon of prosperity in close vicinity. Yes, life was good for one of the biggest property brokers in Texas. If a property or an estate worth some value was going under the hammer in the Sunshine State, you could put your bottom dollar. Then Swinson & Co. had their hands on the contract. Bob Swinson, president of the company, which has 7 outlets spread across the central and western coast, now was more a figurehead of the company. Hard work was left to his diligent, hard-working staff. Wrestling was a tradition for Swinson when he was a toddler. His father would bring him to City Hall. That was way back in the 1950s. See local heroes of that time like Four Fingers Frankenstein take on Slippery Sammy McCarthy, wrestle each other for well over an hour in a best-of-3 falls contest. From that moment, he was hooked, and wrestling became a lifetime obsession. The Texas Beatdown Wrestling was an opportunity that presented itself by fortuitous chance for Bob Swinson back in 1989, as its previous owner, Greg Cordall, fell on hard times when several of his investments were going under, forcing him to put his controlling stock in Beatdown Wrestling up for sale to the highest bidder. Like the bald eagle, the symbol of the nation, Bob Swinson swooped in for the kill, completing the takeover in a matter of weeks and making himself the sole owner of Beatdown Wrestling, a company that he began to rebuild from the bottom up. 10 years later, Beatdown Wrestling was completely transformed from a one-time small indie company to now a prime-time player in today's wrestling industry. All down to the vision of Bob Swinson, who pumped his endless supply of financial resources into the company in terms of setting up its multi-million headquarter base in Houston, equipped with a state-of-the-art training facility and a 45,000 indoor-seated arena. Talent acquisition was always priority number 1 for Swinson, and the business tycoon was known to get down and dirty when it came to poaching the best talent within wrestling today. Bob Swinson got up from his seat, took off his cowboy hat for a moment, and wiped the sweat of his aging brow as he looked at his horses galloping and playing freely in his ranch below. Time of a life well lived were showcased throughout his withered face. His white, puffy mustache, a trademark of his appearance, fluttered in the light breeze coming down from the mountains, as the 70-year-old stretched his aching bones as he began to make the trek down to his beloved horses. Midnight Racer, Daffodil Delight, Honeycomb Herald, to name a few of the prize-winning horses in the stable of Bob Swinson. Swinson through the years had multiple winners in the Kentucky Derby, Belmont Stakes, Traverse Stake, Arlington Million, to name a few.
Easy, easy now, Honeycomb, who's Daddy's favorite son.
As Bob stroked the horse repeatedly, all the while standing nearby. Hired farmhand Tim Arena looked on, ready to spring into action if Honeycomb Herald became agitated all of a sudden, but for the moment the horse was at ease and at comfort in the billionaire's presence, as the majestic figure stood proudly in front of its owner.
Tim, what's the story with Honeycomb? How is he looking in your opinion for Belmont at the end of the month?
Stated the owner as he turned suddenly in the direction to face the experienced farmhand and horse trainer. The 28-year-old gulped and took a moment to answer in the presence of his boss, who always made him nervous, as he struggled to get the words to come out of his mouth.
Yes, sir, very good, sir. Harold's ahead of schedule. I would be very confident that he will put on a great performance on the day, sir.
You don't seem to understand me, Tim. I don't care about the performance. I'm asking you, do you think he will win or not?
Came the stark reply from Swinson. Tim, now twitching even more in an uneasy manner, responded,
Why, yes, sir, I believe he can.
Good, you can take over now, Tim. I will leave him in your hands. I have a phone call to make.
As Bob Swinson turned and began to walk back towards his original position of comfort, heading back towards the porch.
How is my champion doing? Son, I saw you on the Clark Gable show last night. You killed it with that performance of Money Ticket. It's so catchy. We are all singing it here. I thought you answered Gable's questions about wrestling and Beatdown Wrestling in an impressive manner. It was good publicity for everyone involved. We need strong showings like that, Dingo, if we are to pull in more numbers to get ahead of Champagne Wrestling in the TV ratings.
On the other end of the phone call, the raspy street voice of Damon DuBarry answered, known affectionately to everyone as Dingo Dollar.
Yeah, boss. It was all smooth. I was prepared for Gable and his questions. I had my homework done. It was a breeze. Money Ticket is going to be #1 in the billboards in the coming weeks. You watch this space, boss. I guarantee it. That is why you have Dingo as your heavyweight champion. 'Cause I always deliver on the big stage in terms of putting Beatdown Wrestling on the map.
Stated Dingo as his playful banter brought a smile to Bob Swinson on the other end of the phone.